back then in the 70s and brought you up via this van, somewhere along the way we most likely would have been met by people with guns that would have directly or indirectly told us we're not welcome. But by the 80s, there was a new type of person living here. People that were having children and wanting to raise families. They were intrigued by the Brooks Range that we're in right now. They knew they could still live widely, remotely, but still have access to the Dalton Highway now to get back to Fairbanks. But what they started to realize was they wanted to have better accessibility for their children's medical needs. So in 1990, which I think is really not that long ago, 33 years, they lobbied to the state to put this road in, and they did. Up till 1990, if you lived in Wiseman, you had to use your snow machine or ATV to skid across the ice or ride the gravel bars in the summertime up to the road where you'd have your car parked, and then you'd be able to drive down to Fairbanks. If we were to head out Nolan Road, which is out that road, about 8 miles or so, there's a active gold mine still going on today, and there are people out still gold mining. But to give you a little idea of back in the gold rush days of the early 1900s, most gold miners only made enough of money to keep searching and keep living that lifestyle, looking for the gold. Very few of them had made any real big money. So we're going to be going down here, like I mentioned, to meet Jack. There's only 11 people that live here. We probably won't see any of them. I never see anybody. There's barely anything ever moving down here. You don't see anybody working in their yards, and there are some people that have an absent ballot on ownership. They own here, but they're not here very much. There are no summer homes here or vacation rentals. There's no Airbnb or VRBO. People have asked once they get in here and on the way out, well, why don't they rent? Why don't they use all the empty space? And the truth is, they don't want you here. They don't want me here. I would love to be here. But the people who live here, they're super nice and sociable. I've only met a couple of them. But it just wouldn't be the same type of place, if the population would double, triple from 11 to 33 or more. Now, Jack, he's not able to say verbatim every single tour, but, I'll say if he doesn't say it here on this tour, that, you're not having a kumbaya moment here. We're not all holding hands in Wiseman. If you need help on a particular project, they'll help you. They'll give you advice, but it's a rough and tough crowd that you either need to figure it out on yourself or pack your bags and go home, because Jack's 65. Give you an idea here. Look to the left. Kathy, you can look out the windshield. Look at the bottom of these dwarf willow shrubs. See all this just scrap twigs and everything all bunched up there? Yeah. That's because back in June, the river was flush with the road right here. It was up over 7 feet, and the water and the current was lapping over the road. This was all underwater for just half of a day. And when the water receded, it took out some of the road and all this light brown gravel here on the left. The Department of Transportation just did that 2 weeks ago. Now this was state maintained and owned up until right here. And here we are now. We're going to enter Wiseman, the village itself, and look to your left. There goes local. There's one of those guys in the blue. That's his friends, and they're grooming the dogs. That's all the dog sled dogs. He runs a dog sled tour in the wintertime. That's how he gets some of his cash economy.
So he lives here.
He lives here. He's the only young person that lives here, and I've never seen this many cars at one time in my life coming up here all summer. This is amazing. It's like a traffic jam. These two trucks I don't know who these are, but they're together. I seen them down in Coldfoot, and those two other vehicles on the right. I bet that they're friends. His name's Steve. He was back there combing the one dog, and I like the sign here: white horse, dead horse, our horse. You'll see some of this stuff is from the gold mining days of the 50s. Some is mostly pipeline construction days of the 70s. This on the left here is the community center. I've never been in it. They don't use it for anything these days, I hear. They have a big 4th of July shindig, but it's outside, so. But one thing you'll notice about those logs, right, they don't seem to fit in all the landscape of these scrawny trees because, well, they brought those in from over 600 miles away below Anchorage to build that. The river here on the left, just as we're turning the bend, the water was right all the way up here to the road. All that gravel bar was underwater, and I told you the road was put in 1990 to get to Wiseman. Imagine this. See this auto bridge right here we're going to cross? This is Wiseman Creek, and that big wedge to our right was what I was pointing out from the Dalton Highway there. Up until 1994, this was a footbridge. And if you live down here, now we're entering South Wiseman. We just drove through North Wiseman. If you lived in South Wiseman up until 1994, you had to park your vehicle in North Wiseman and walk home. You weren't able to take your automobile home with you. And it just happened to be that there was a 100-year flood, and it took out that footbridge. And once again, the people turned to the state and convinced them they put in an auto bridge. So for the first time in 1994, which, again, just 6 short years before the year 2000, remember Y2K, people were able to take their automobiles home for their first time to their own yard. Now this Boreal Lodge is one of 2 lodges. The other one we passed, you might have saw that Arctic Getaway. This is Jack's sister, Heidi. That's her and her husband. They own that, and those are a bunch of caribou antler. The house on the right there, that's Jack's, his wife Nikki. That's their brand new home. They just started raising that back in April. Her son is a carpenter, so they were able to do all that by themselves, bring all the material in. Look here to the left, these are some early circa 1970 snow machines. You can see the John Deere logo on that one. So here we are, we're at Jack's house. A couple things. There's those outhouses I talked about. They're directly ahead of us here. The one with the door open, kind of that manila color, that's the women's. The one on the left is more for the men's. People say, well, what's the difference, Andy? I'm like, well, I'll tell you. I've never seen the toilet seat down or toilet paper in the men's. It's very